Lebanese television audience is spoiled for choice, really. I don't think of any other part in the world where you have free-to-air Western Hollywood blockbuster movie channels available 24 hours a day, dedicated movie channels, dedicated series channels. These things, the channels that we have here are premium channels. The free-to-air channels that we have here are premium channels in other parts of the world. So there are fantastic options here, be it in Arabic, English, and several Asian languages. It's a region that's truly audience-driven.
Well, in terms of audience, the Middle East audience receive more channels than anyone almost across the world. So we have today roughly 700 free-to-air. The challenge is not into adding breadth to that content, but the challenge is reside into delivering it to the end user, finding means to explore, navigate, and expose this content into a rich way that the user is able to access whenever he wishes, in the way that he wishes.
The content is very rich, and there is an abundance of content availability and content also on broadcasters as well. However, I believe that there is a shortcoming on the part of many of the, particularly free-to-air broadcasters, to understand their audience and to also understand at what times they can appeal to them with their content. Also the structure of such audience.
Some broadcasters make a lot of effort to understand their audience, and these broadcasters are actually the leading broadcasters today. So that is a key learning. The majority of the broadcasters do not know their audience. No, they don't make the effort or do not spend enough money or the investment necessary to identify who their audience is on a regular basis.
I think broadcasters know their audience to some degree, but there's not enough detailed information about who's watching what at what time, with the exception of TV at the moment that's doing some of the people metering in the UAE only, with the Saudi project coming up soon. So the audience is diverse. I think people's habits in the region, we tend to make the region sound like one place. It's not. It's many different countries with different habits, even different time zones to some degree. So the audience in terms of content is well served. There's a lot of choice, but whether that choice I'm aware of as a viewer is something that we're not very sure about, because broadcasters aren't really offering enough information and enough promotion of their content to all countries. So a lot of it is really potluck. I'm surfing my TV, I stumble across something that looks interesting, I stop and view it. So the broadcaster's real task is, once someone does find something, is how do you keep them there? And so there's probably a real opportunity to congregate all that information and get your promotions and your marketing up to speed so that the audience finds out, comes to your channel and stays there.
People don't know the audience here. At the moment, TView is the only reliable audience measurement system that is operating in the whole Arab market. Certainly, on the scale that we're operating at. Hopefully, Saudi will come online soon. There've been some changes in Lebanon where maybe that will improve. But by and large, whether it's broadcasters, advertisers, whatever, they're aiming, they're shooting in the dark. And the audiences, although they do watch TV and they're very receptive to some of the content, it's still a lot of guesswork. When you're talking about more specific programming, more targeted programming, or advertising for that matter, niche channels, things that appeal to certain parts of the audience, even if you're talking about things like scheduling, the audience is just not known, and therefore the broadcasters can't do what the audiences want, and therefore I would say on the whole they're not being well served, and the broadcasters don't know them. And there is a lot of education and learning that needs to take place in this market before we get to that.
Emerging models like video on demand allow this to happen because of the interactivity and knowing exactly when someone is watching. And that's definitely something that the bulk of the broadcasters today, particularly the ones that do not have access to the premium channels or the premium viewing timings, need to exploit and look very carefully into.
Up until recently, there's been a huge growth year on year in a number of television channels, about 80 per year for the last 10 years, and there's not an economic model to support all those television channels. So it's an open question as to why those channels exist, what's driving them, more and more channels to come in. I mean, from my point of view at Channel Sculptor, I want this company to help channels to actually be real businesses. And to be a real business in the television sector, you need to know who your customer is. You need to know your audience's tastes, you need to know exactly who you're targeting. And I think there are very few tools available to broadcasters at the moment to know who to target and whether they are succeeding in that plan. Broadcasters tend to launch with an idea for programming and an idea of where they're going to situate themselves, but not necessarily an idea of how they're going to engage their audience. And I think through tools, whether it's marketing your product to the viewing audience or measuring the success of that marketing, we need to have a much smarter approach to audience measurement. And as things stand, I think there's a big opportunity for anyone, any broadcaster who is willing to take that challenge on. They can really benefit in terms of audience share.